hope reminds you that a bend in the road is not the end of the road. That's a powerful statement, don't you think? Well, today I have the pleasure of interviewing the person who has been advocating hope a lot. Any guesses on who that might be? If you guessed Dr. Randy Ross, then you are correct. The author of Fireproof Happiness, who wrote the book in the midst of a pandemic when everyone around was losing hope. Join me in this insightful conversation with Dr. Ross. Let's jump right into it. In the book, you mention some low points in your life and how you overcame those. However, was there a point in your life when you lost complete hope? If yes, who was your Dr. Randy Ross?
Well, it's a great question. And it's interesting because I think the common thread that unites humanity is the fact that all of us have disappointments. We have dreams that have been dashed. We have challenging life circumstances. We all go through tumultuous times, right? We all have times when the world pulls the rug out from under us and we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. And I think the common thread that causes us to be intertwined is the fact that everybody experiences pain and suffering in life. And no one is an exception to that. If you just scratch beneath the surface, everybody has pain. It's a part of their story. And so when we understand that, then it helps us to, when we do go through challenging times, not to fall into a, oh, woe is me, the world is against me, life is bad kind of an attitude, but say, this is part of the human experience. And so what we have to understand is that, this too shall pass. And what is it that life is trying to teach me? One of the things that I often say is that sometimes life has a tendency to teach you things that you're unwilling to learn any other way. To answer your question, I've been through transitions. I've had the loss of loved ones. I've had career opportunities that were dismantled. All of us have those transitional periods in our lives. And the question is, how will we respond to it? Because we have the opportunity to use that to grow stronger. Or if we're not emotionally prepared, it can crush us. Life circumstances can crush us and demoralize us. So I would never say that I've ever been hopeless. I would say there have been times that I've had low ebbs of hope. But as I talk about in the book, you can both be hopeful and hopeless at the same time. But what you don't want to try to do is, for anybody, yourself included, you don't want to try to remove their hopelessness, because you can't. What you want to do is infuse them with hopefulness. And one of the things that I think that helps me in that process is when difficult times come along, I don't ask the question, why is this happening? Or why is this happening to me? That's the most common question. Why is this happening to me? I think there's a better question that puts you on the other side. And that's this: what does this now make possible? Because creativity is defined as what you get when everything else is taken off the table. When all your other options are removed, when your dreams are dashed, when you have disappointments, when those options are removed, the question is, what now can I do? Not what, don't focus on what you can't do. What now can I do? What does this make possible? What new vistas of opportunity? What new creative things can I envision to navigate my way through this? And some of the very best and strongest life opportunities are on the other side of suffering. And that's what we talk about in Fireproof Happiness.
I think it's the first step of trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel and try to imagine yourself in a better place, trying to get out of that challenge and see yourself getting better in life. I think that's what makes a difference.
Absolutely. And we talk about in the book the buoyancy beliefs of hope. In other words, when the storm surge comes, when the waters are rising, when things are looking very, very challenging in your world, there are four practical beliefs or practices that you can put into place to help you be more buoyant and stay above the waterline when those things happen. And the first one is positivity. I believe that my tomorrow can be brighter no matter how challenging today may be. That's the first buoyancy belief. And then we talk about in the book the belief that of responsibility. I'm not a victim in this. I have a say in how my life unfolds. The third belief is the belief of agility, that there's not just one particular uh, way to get to any desired destination, but if one path is blocked, I can choose another, I can create another, I can clear the path. And so I think to focus on agility and our options is an opportunity to express our creativity. And then the last one is just embracing reality. So positivity, responsibility, agility, and reality. When we apply those practical beliefs, then we can literally get through anything that life throws at us.
That's really a good way to, put into perspective all of these things. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I remember reading that at the age of 6, you dreamed of growing up to be Batman. And as an adult, you are in many ways doing the rescuing job pretty well. Apart from Batman's fancy cars and gadgets and a fabulous protective suit, do you feel your life is missing anything from your younger self's dream?
You know, that's a fun thing to reflect upon. I did want to be Batman because I wanted to right the wrongs in the world, to fight evil, to do good, to change the world for good. And I believe I'm still doing that. And that's part of the power of hope. Is when you have a dream in front of you and you believe that you're bringing value to life. Um, what's interesting is that we know from research, psychologically speaking, that if you're suffering with anxiety or uncertainty or depression, the most effective thing that you can do to work your way out of that depressive state is to focus on doing good for other people. In other words, what creates anxiety, what creates worry, what creates depression is when individuals are purely focused upon themselves. They have a myopic perspective and it's, oh, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? This is all about me. And so if we change our focus, think less of ourselves, and begin to creatively think, how can I bring value to someone else in the world? That's where meaning, purpose, fulfillment begins to take root. Even, one of the things we encourage people to do is express gratitude for others. Literally, pick up your pen and write a card of a thank you card to someone who has significantly impacted your life in a positive way. Whether that was a family member, a friend, a colleague, a boss, because when you begin to thank other people and focus on other people and get your focus off of yourself, then something begins to happen psychologically and dynamically that it infuses us and inspires us and begins to elevate our sense of happiness, because that's what everybody is longing for, is a sense of happiness. But here's the thing. A wise man by the name of John Templeton, he once said this. He said, happiness pursued eludes, but happiness given returns. In other words, if happiness is your focus, you will never attain it. You can't chase it like a tiger and catch it by the tail. Happiness is something that must ensue. It cannot be pursued. And so you attain happiness when you create happiness for other people. And if you think about it this way, I am the happiest as a husband when my wife is happy. I'm the happiest as a parent when my kids are happy. I'm the happiest as a team leader when my teams are happy. So it's not about focusing on my happiness. It's about focusing upon what things can I do to create a happy, flourishing environment for those individuals. And as they thrive, I thrive. There's a speaker and a writer, author you may be familiar with. His name was Zig Ziglar. He's no longer with us. He passed away several years ago. But Zig used to say, he would say, the fastest way to success is to make everyone around you successful. And the same thing is true about happiness. The fastest way to happiness is to do whatever you can to bring happiness into the lives of others. And that's the powerful part. Um, so for ourselves and for others, we need to create inspirational goals that we can pursue because the pleasure is in the pursuit.
I agree to quite an extent. I've seen this happening that, just practicing gratitude, being grateful for the little things in your life, and to an extent, even helping out others, without any selfish motives. That creates happiness without you even, intentionally doing or asking for it. It really works, yes.
It does. And the power of hope is, if you understand it, if you know how to define it, and you know how to elevate your levels of hope. Hope is the central ingredient for health, for happiness, for productivity, for longevity. So if you want to live a long, productive life, a life that's rich and full and meaningful, then you have to understand how to define hope and then how to pursue hope. Because most people, if you ask them, here's the interesting thing, Nisha. If you ask people, is hope essential to life? Everybody says yes. Absolutely. Everybody needs hope. But then if you ask them to define it, most people can't, because it's sort of ethereal. So you have to have a practical working definition of hope. And we define hope as a dynamic motivational system tied to inspirational goal setting. A dynamic motivational system tied to inspirational goal setting. And that unpacks a lot. But when you understand it that way, then that means that you have to set goals that are inspirational for you, that are aligned with your purpose and your passion and your strengths and your intent on solving problems. And you've got a specific destination that you're choosing to pursue.
That's really a, insightful way of looking at things. So, um, as an author of many great inspiring books, what is the message you are most passionate about that you want to share with the readers?
uh, we talk about culture, we talk about leadership, we talk about hope, we talk about giving and doing good in the world. But I think the message that runs through all of the writing that I do is a focus upon the power of applied axiology. Now, axiology is something that maybe many of your listeners are not familiar with, but axiology is a strain of philosophy. And I'm a geek when it comes to philosophy. I love philosophy, and I've studied this for several decades now. But axiology is a strain of philosophy that talks about someone's values, value creation, and value constructs. Um, what brings the most value to the world? At its heart, axiology is about defining and measuring good. How do you define good? How do you measure good? It's interesting. It goes all the way back to Plato and Socrates, but the father of modern axiology is an individual by the name of Dr. Robert Hartman. And there are certain principles of axiology, when you apply those, it has a profound positive impact on every area of your life, both personally and professionally. So, in the book Remarkable, that I wrote several years ago, which is about corporate culture and creating movements of good, has to do with customer service. Um, we unpack these principles of axiology when we talked about relationomics and leadership development. At the very core of creating a relationally rich environment, an environment in which people can flourish, are these underlying principles of axiology. In Fireproof Happiness, a lot of what we talk about, the underlying current is this explanation of applied axiology, because being able to understand how do you create good in the world is a powerful, powerful concept, because that's what puts you on the course to happiness. Everybody wants happiness, but here's the secret. The secret is to find something that is rich and meaningful, that is aligned with your purpose, and something that ignites your passion. So when you find that combination, then you're well on your way to creating a movement of good. And that movement of good can be in your home, it can be in your religious pursuit, it can be in your volunteer organization, it can be in your business. It applies all across the board because the principles of applied axiology are transcendent. And they're actually quite simple too. Uh, so I would say that's the message that we're continually trying to convey is how do leaders create movements of good?
Okay. So sometimes in life, people are at such a low point that no books or talks help. What would you like to say to people in that moment, or who are facing that seemingly insurmountable challenge at that time?
When I get to some low points in my own personal life, one of the individuals that I write about in the book is a guy by the name of Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's a powerful book. But here's his story, and it's a long way of answering your question, but give me just a second to unpack this. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychologist, psychiatrist, neuropsychology. Um, he was Jewish and he was taken prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp. He actually endured 4 different concentration camps. And he survived that experience, but all of his worldly possessions were taken away. All of his family members were exterminated in the gas chambers. His entire existence was dominated, dictated by some of the most atrocious forces of evil that we've ever seen in history. His life was decimated. He had nothing. But he endured and he came out on the other side of that to write the book, Man's Search for Meaning. And this is what he said. He said, everything in life can be taken away. Everything in life can be taken away. Your worldly possessions, your loved ones, your life circumstances, your job, everything in life can be taken away except one thing. And that's the power for you to conduct yourself and have control over your own emotional state. No one can take away from you your attitude and how you respond to life circumstances. And I think for someone who's going through a really difficult time, that's hard for them to find a place of encouragement. They don't feel like reading a book. They don't want to listen to a podcast. I think the first thing you have to understand is that no one can control you and your response to a circumstance unless you allow them to control you. And so first, what we have to do is we have to focus on managing and mastering our inner world so that we can effectively face our outer world. The outer world is not the problem. It's the inner world that we have to master. So you have to back up and you have to start by focusing on those things over which you have control. And here's the big misconception. In life, we think we have control over much more than we have control. I mean, think about it. You can't control the weather. You can't control the economy. You can't control other people. You can't control life circumstances. You have no control over what happens to you. You can influence things, but you have no control. The only thing you ever have control over is yourself and how you respond to any given circumstance. But that's where emotional resilience comes into play. When you understand that I have control over me, I have a choice in how I respond. I'm not a victim. I can choose to focus on doing good for others. I can choose to focus on establishing inspirational goals, even if it's a small inspirational goal. I can choose to move forward and make positive progress. And I have the optimism to believe that I'm going to be able to endure this circumstance. Now, here's the thing. There are the four buoyancy beliefs of hope are, remember, positivity. I believe that tomorrow can be better. Responsibility. I have a say in how my life unfolds. Agility, I can change and morph to pursue those goals. And the reality, what many people try to do is they try to minimize the reality of their situation rather than embrace it in its totality and then be able to construct emotionally the safeguards they need in order to endure, persevere, and then have a positive impact on the other side. And that's what Viktor Frankl did. So anytime I get down, anytime I get discouraged, anytime I think my life is bad, I just think about Viktor Frankl and what he must have gone through, losing his family, losing his possessions, losing his job, losing his influence, no control over his outside world. He was told when to go to bed, what to eat, what to do. He had no control whatsoever, even to help those people around him. But he focused on what he did have control over, and that was his own sanity, his own emotional state, and his own response to what was arguably some of the greatest atrocities that man has ever perpetrated against humankind. Yet he endured that because he maintained personal control. And I think that's what listeners need to focus on is themselves and how can they bring their best self to the experience, no matter how difficult it may be.
I think Viktor Frankl's story gives you a lot of strength, and when you compare anyone, in this life, the troubles they're going through, I don't think it would compare anywhere close to what he has endured. And if he can get through that and write a book and pass on a message of hope and positivity, I think we can do a lot with our lives.
I agree. I mean, it serves as great encouragement, right? Not that we ever want to compare our circumstance to someone else's because that's never productive. That's not helpful. But I do think it gives us great courage to face challenging times, to know that even in the most dire of life circumstances, we can create the emotional resilience to bounce back and be stronger after having endured something like that. So I like to say that your present conditions are actually conditioning you for greater things to come. And that's what you need to remember. And that's what you need to anticipate. And that's what you need to work toward. Viktor Frankl, in the midst of the darkest nights of the soul that he ever experienced, he always envisioned himself on the other side, helping people apply the lessons that he had learned that helped him endure those difficult circumstances. And that's what gave him the emotional strength, was seeing himself on the other side of that challenge, creating value for other people.
That's true. In your book, you advise readers to surround themselves with the people who believe in them. You talk about two kinds of people. You've explained that there's the balcony people who are like your cheerleaders and they applaud you on your success, and then there's the basement people or the naysayers who have the unique ability, as you say, to kill your will. So then you also go on to mention that we don't confuse the realist with the basement people. Could you tell our viewers how does one distinguish between the two, and what are the distinctive characteristics to set them apart?
Yeah. So all of us have people in our lives who either invigorate us or drain us. And so one of the things, a very practical thing that you can do, a step to elevate your hope, is to do a relational inventory. I mean, literally, your mother was right. She told you you will become like the company that you keep. And she probably said something like this, or at least we have a saying here: birds of a feather flock together. Well, it's true. You become like the company that you keep. You become like the people you hang out with. If you introduce me to your five closest friends, I can pretty much tell you where you're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years, because they will have an influence over how you grow or you don't grow. And so I want to challenge everybody to do a relational inventory. Think about those people that are in your life and then just determine, is this someone who gives me energy, makes me feel better, challenges me to be better? as you said, the balcony people are those people who, stand up and cheer you on. They're the ones that applaud your performance. They infuse you with energy. They encourage you. Um, they're your pom pom people. They're your, people who stand up and cheer so that you perform at your best. But then there are always the basement people. Those are the people that drag you down. That they're always naysayers. They're critical. They drain you of your energy. And oftentimes, what we do is we allow people into our inner circle who continue to chip away at our confidence, that don't provide life breathing, life infusing conversations. And we have to surround ourselves with positive, upbeat, optimistic, hopeful people if we want to become hope filled as well. And so I think it's really important to make sure that your lifeline, literally your lifeline, is tied to the right people. We were created to live in community, and we need to surround ourselves with people who, like us, want to do good, and we encourage each other and lift each other up in the process. So I think you need to think through either establishing boundaries or sometimes moving away from certain people. Sometimes it's necessary to part paths with people who are not a positive influence in your life. And I think that's part of the growth process as well.
All the points you've shared has been so helpful. Your book has been so helpful. I have really enjoyed reading, and I generally, have been a very optimistic, positive person. And reading your book has added so much value and showed me a different kind of a way of doing things and infusing hope along with a strategy in life. So it's really been a pleasure, and I have really enjoyed it. Even the Fireproof Happiness mini course that you have on your website, it's really helped me. So I am really grateful that you have shared all of these techniques and tips with your readers. It's been great.
Well, thank you for the conversation today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, Nisha. And thank you for the kind comment about our book, Fireproof Happiness. You can find Fireproof Happiness and all the other books that I've written on your favorite platform, wherever you typically get access to books. And I hope that some of the things we've talked about will encourage those people who are listening.
Thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing all your kind words with us.
Absolutely my pleasure.
That was Dr. Randy Ross. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. You can get this book by using the link given in the description below. To watch more interesting videos like this, do subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to like, comment, and share with family and friends. I would love to hear your thoughts and reply to your comments. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.